I
Hi,
know.
Pastuzyn.
It's too early in the day for some wine.
Good afternoon. It's so
But,
awesome to have you here.
well, thanks.
I'm excited
So,
for what we're going to talk about today.
well,
Thank you for saying yes to being on Michelle's Conversations That Matter. I appreciate that. You and I have been friends for quite some time now. No secret there. With my series, the thing I'm out to do is to cause more open conversations that educate, maybe inspire, and just maybe just help people in some way, and could even be those uncomfortable discussions. But today is not one of those. Basically, I want to be a conversation starter in the world. So my company, for those that don't know, is Trifecta Mental Health, and I'm out to cause change in how people relate to mental health in the workplace and beyond. And so today we are talking about this conversation about travel. And when I think about travel, I think about you, Susan, because I think pretty much over the past several years, any trip that I've ever taken, you have been intimately involved with. and I just consider you an expert and someone who's very well versed in this space. And when I was thinking about what kinds of topics I wanted to bring people in on my platform, travel was something that kept coming up that people were wanting to know more about, were curious about, were getting very excited because of the hope that maybe they could resume what they normally would do. But before we dive into that topic, could you take a moment, just let us know who you are, where you live, and what you do?
sure. So I am Susan Pastuzyn. I live in Westfield, New Jersey, and my travel agency is actually home-based. So yes, that's what I do. I book travel. Obviously, I haven't been booking as much travel as I did prior to the pandemic,
Yeah.
but it's picking up again. And thank you, Michelle, for having me.
You're so welcome. So without a doubt, I would say those impacted more significantly during COVID were folks in the travel industry. That's clear. I mean, you see all the cuts that have gone on around travel, and you know, everything from air carriers to hotels. People have lost their jobs because so many people are not able to travel. And just this morning, when I logged into Yahoo, I saw that Disney announced that they're laying off 28,000 employees in California and Florida. So the happiest place on earth is downsizing, which is like, oh my gosh, right? So personally, myself, I love taking short trips, but I haven't been, and I'm actually very anxious about the winter. You know, we're coming into fall and winter and the colder, darker, gray days of, you know, that we have ahead. With my own seasonal depression, I'm always looking to like get away to a Caribbean island to get that hit of sunshine so that I can sort of feel better. But, you know, it's sort of unsettling. Do we feel safe to do that? Is it okay to travel? So I guess we'll start with, you know, you have your thumb on the pulse of what's going on. Like, have you been seeing, or people starting to travel? What's the word on the street around travel?
So yes, people are starting to travel. The big thing is, where can you go right now safely, and also, I guess not everyone is ready to travel, right? And that's so if you're ready, there are places you can go. They're being pretty cautious in most places. I know that Mexico, Cancun area, Riviera Maya definitely is a place that you can get to pretty readily. And they are, I think right now they're at 60% capacity. They were a little bit less, but I think they just went up to 60% capacity. So it's actually a good time to if you're willing to go to these places, because they're not packed. You know, it's easy to get around, and the places are wonderful, and there's so many options at so many different price points. So, you know, the Caribbean is one of the places that's pretty open. Some places really are like, they want a test first. They want you to, you know, prove that you don't have COVID during that time. So, you know, it just depends on where you're going. You've got to check the sorry, there was an interruption here.
Okay, it's live. It's normal.
It's going on. So you got to check the website. You know, obviously with your travel agent, of course, but you know, you have to look at the websites and see what they're doing, because they change all the time. Like So it's really important. That brings me to, you really want to make sure that wherever you're going, that you have some type of cancel for any reason, insurance, or the ability to cancel just in case something changes and you can't go.
Right. Yeah, because we get the notifications here in town about the numbers. So like the numbers could spike and that could cause more restrictions, and then suddenly you're not feeling comfortable about traveling, right? Like, oh gosh, like
yeah. So it may not, so much.
Yeah.
So it might not even be them canceling, but you might say, hey, with this going on, I don't want to go. And that's why it's so important to make sure you're covered for whatever choice you want to make. Because it really is a personal choice right now, whether or not you want to travel anywhere.
Right.
Some people really just don't want to get on a plane, and some people do, and it's perfectly fine to get on a plane. All of the airlines, all of the hotel chains, they're all taking, it's probably the cleanest time to travel in the history of life, because they're all taking all of the mandatory precautions as well as some extra precautions. So as far as that goes, they'd be idiots not to, like at this point. So for as far as that goes, I know I haven't been on a plane yet. I haven't had opportunity to, but my fellow travel agents, I have very good friends, and they've been traveling constantly to Mexico and other places across the United States. Many people, even my good friends, they go because they have family like in different states, and they go. So and they're still alive, they're breathing, and everything's okay so far. So yeah, it's a personal choice, but a lot of people are doing. I know a lot of families just did U.S. based travel.
Right.
And,
good. So I want to dive into the US based travel, and you were saying that there's some tours, but I also want to remind our audience that we're open for questions. So if you have any questions and you're watching, Susan's happy to answer them. So please pop your questions into the comments, and we'll get those answered for you. So before we went live, we were talking about people's comfort level with the day trips or with the road trips, with getting on the road and going to see some of the beautiful sites in the US. So tell us more about the tours and stuff that you're hearing.
Well, sure. Well, first I want to say, like, even in the US, like there are certain states that won't allow other states people. Like you really do have to check before you go. Now, is it being policed very well? I don't know. It depends on where you go and who's policing, and most of the time it's a fine or something like that. That being said, there are hotspots too. So like, if you want to go somewhere, you make sure you're really not going into like a hotspot area, perhaps,
Right.
Some people will go anyway, which is fine. You got to do what makes you comfortable. But in the US, you want to check and make sure you're welcome there. And they're leaving it a lot to the hotels to do it. So if you're staying somewhere like in a hotel and your zip code's from an area like that, I've stayed in many hotels since COVID hit, and one of the things was when we were in Vermont, and we were on the road because we were on our motorcycles, and we went in and they were like, I said, we need a room, and they were like, well, where are you from? Because you got to make sure you're allowed to stay here. Like you're not allowed to be in Vermont. So they are checking by hotel. But that being said, a lot of the tour companies now have realized that people really don't want to fly, and so they're doing a lot more domestic tours. So it's a great time to go see the Grand Canyon, go see Yellowstone Park, Alaska. All over this country, there is so much beauty that you could do guided tours rather than going on your own. You don't necessarily always get in or get to do the things that either that you want to do or that you don't even know that you want to do, right? But if you go on these tours, you'll actually have a guide and get to see everything that is meant to be seen in the area, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome. So Ben has a question. I don't know if I would know the answer if I were you. I'll show it, but like I don't know.
I'll take it. Hi, ladies. Oh, Ben. Hi.
So I don't know. I've never heard of this. 24 hours, you're exempt from quarantine.
That again, that's a good question, Ben. But I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with the quarantines. I haven't seen anything that's that's said one way or the other. So
Yeah.
we'd have to take a look. I mean, look, Google's your best friend, right? I would definitely look into that. And then I happen to be able to reach you on Facebook, so I will actually look into that, and I will let you know via messaging and possibly on my Susan's Travel page on Facebook. How's that sound? Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. That's great. You know, the other thing, it's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine, my new friend, Sean Swarner, who lives out in the Midwest. He's the climber guy that I interviewed. A remarkable dude, climbed Mount Everest, Kilimanjaro with one lung. I mean, who does that?
Unbelievable.
So
right?
we were, he's amazing. So we were talking, and he's actually renting an RV. He's taking an RV from where he lives all the way down, I think, like to Florida or something. And he's like asking for places to see. So I'm feeling like people are hopping onto the whole RV bandwagon to renting, or they're buying or whatever. So have you been seeing more of that?
Many people have. And so it's kind of funny because you get people who like will rent these big, like a friend of ours rented big, huge, like, I don't know, 40 some odd foot wide. They were going on the road. I mean, they barely got in a driveway and they need a tow truck. You know, it's so funny. But the video, it was really funny. But I mean, it's a good way to travel. It takes getting used to. If you've never done it, it's definitely takes some getting used to. And of course, the one thing I would say, if you're going to rent an RV, is pay attention when you get it. They are going to go over instructions, and usually you're like la 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 la, yeah, and guess what? You're going to be sorry if you don't pay attention to those instructions, because there's a lot to know when you're doing a motorhome. Yeah.
You were saying that that it's too soon to tell about the connections. You know, early in the connections with air travel. Earlier in the pandemic, I was doing some reading, and some articles were popping up around like convenience as we once knew it to catch a direct flight from point A to point B is gone. Like, be prepared to be able to, that you're going to need to allow more travel time, because you're going to need more connections because of the
connection. Yeah. And there's no telling what's going to happen going forward. That's what I've been asked, is like, going forward, like, how bad is it right now? I mean, I don't know. I know prices are pretty good right now, because I took a look, you know, just yesterday at some of the pricing, because it goes up and down, you know, you go, you know, but pricing is pretty good right now. But connections, yes, you're probably right now. Yes, you might have to take a connection to get somewhere that maybe before you didn't.
Yeah.
But going forward, who knows what's going to happen? Like, if there's a vaccine or a cure next month,
right,
it might go back to, you know, normal. I'm kind of hoping. It's interesting with this COVID, because I'm kind of hoping that a lot of things, that it changes a lot of things for the better. Like, there's got to be some positive outcome.
Yeah.
And one of the things might be like how, say, like stores open, and how the flights are handled, and how people are. So I think that hopefully the good stuff out of it will stay, you know.
Yeah, and I have a couple of friends who had planned some international travel. They were looking forward to going on some trips. Someone I just spoke to was disappointed they couldn't go to Oktoberfest, but yet I have other friends who are still optimistic they're going to be able to travel abroad. Do you have any insight onto like when can they travel internationally?
Well, technically, I mean, look, it's like I said, it's the hotels it's up to them. I don't know. And I'd have to do a little research. If someone really wanted to go, I'd have to look and see like how strict they are on getting on and off the planes. I know that some places are like self-quarantine. Some places are hotel quarantine. Like, you can get to your hotel and you're not supposed to leave your room, which is also self sort of quarantine, you know.
Yeah.
And that there's some hefty fines if you don't abide. But I don't have anyone that's actually done it so far, so I don't know like what's actually happening over there. But I do know people have flown back and forth for other reasons, and they're doing it. So it just depends. Like I said, if someone really wanted to do it, I'd have to sit down and really dig in and to my wide network of travel agents to find people who have actually gone to the place that you're going, to make sure that you'll be able to go. Yeah.
And that's what I love about you, because you don't recommend a place until you know it's so good. No, and this isn't like, I'm not blowing smoke. This is legit. Whenever I've wanted to go someplace, you've always found out what it's like recently by someone you know, because we don't want to be disappointed on our trips. We don't want to be let down.
Correct.
It's really important, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's what I'm here for. I mean, you don't need me otherwise. That's what I'm here for, is to make sure that whatever you're doing and whatever you're looking for is what you get.
Yeah. And I haven't personally, since COVID hit, I have not stayed in a hotel room. I haven't gone anywhere. I haven't stayed in a hotel. You and Greg went away. You went a couple of road trips and stuff. So what was that like? Could you give us some insight into like the hotel experiences that you've had?
It was very normal, honestly. So some hotels, as you know, have some kind of a breakfast area that was constantly wiped down, cleaned, and wrapped. Actually, the beginning, when it first started, they were wiped down and cleaned, but they're still wiped down and clean. But now it's only wrapped food. You can't like grab stuff the way you did. It's wrapped. Everything's wrapped individually for you.
Okay.
So it's not, but other than that, I mean, the hotel stay, I mean, the rooms I always bring, and I tell people always bring wipes, cleaner, etc., because yes, they're cleaning. And they're cleaning much better than they've ever cleaned before right now. Like I said, it's probably the cleanest time to go anywhere. But I still always bring everything and clean the wipe down stuff. And I just like to make sure doorknobs were covered and stuff like that they might have forgotten to hit, So I always do all of that when I go. But for the most part, the hotels are packed. I mean, they're crowded. I mean, we went up to Bar Harbor, Maine, and on the way, we stayed in Portsmouth and Booth Bay Harbor, and all the hotels were booked. Everything. The Sheraton in Portsmouth was booked, packed, solid, and
that was before Labor Day, right?
I don't remember when I went.
I think it was.
August. Yeah, it was in August. We went in August.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they were both, and they were very clean, and social distance went on. Everyone wore masks inside unless they were at, a restaurant or a bar eating or drinking. And, downtown Portland, Maine was buzzing. Bar Harbor was packed. I'm surprised. It was very busy. The hiking trails were packed. Like everything was busy, and everyone was so. I mean, it's amazing. Like you hear horror stories a lot, like especially around here, like in the Westfield group, you hear people, but out there, like the people are friendly, they're courteous. If you want a mask, they ask you if I see people and I don't have one, they want one, I put it on, and like they stay apart and they let people by, and it's just actually working out there from what I've seen.
Good.
So that was like National Park. That's why we went to Acadia Park, and that was fine that way. And the hotels we stayed in a number of different places and different levels, of what you would stay in, and they were all fine.
Okay, that was my next question. What was the what were the brands, if you would?
Well, no, I mean, I really just stayed. It was I usually stay in Sheraton. I usually stay in Marriott properties.
Okay,
so, Sheraton. Well, on the way home, we hit a rainstorm, and unfortunately, I couldn't see on the motorcycle because we were on the motorcycles. So we just pulled off the next exit, and I wound up in something called a Fireside Inn or something. I don't know. It wasn't bad. It was like a little hotel, but I found out they were a chain later. I don't know, but it was okay. So we wound up there. That was clean. It was clean though. Yeah, they had washer dryer, so I could dry my clothes.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was probably the one that I would say I would never stayed there otherwise. Otherwise, I usually stay, Marriott's and Sheraton's, and Bar Harbor. We stayed in a beautiful Cliffstowe Manor. It was a beautiful little historic building with like big rooms, and it was like a B&B, I guess. It was nice. I have a video of it up on my. I think I put it up on YouTube, I hope. But I got to get it on my Facebook page. But yeah, so it's interesting. And that was all clean too, and social distance. Everything is social distance.
So you mentioned earlier about it's up to our own personal comfort level, and if we're willing to be looking into travel, the best is to just sort of talk to you and say, hey, you know, I think I'm willing to get on maybe like an hour flight, or I'm willing to take a road trip. We have recommendations. It's really up to the individual client, but then you'll guide them.
I will never recommend whether or not you should travel.
Yeah,
never. I mean, you have to decide for you what works for you. I can share with you what I've done. Yeah. I can share what I've seen out there, how it's been, but you have to decide what works for you. I cannot tell you what to do.
No. So do you have any perks for us? Any good ideas? Like we have like, so say we have a shoestring budget.
I have to take a look and see what I got. I mean, I definitely have some, like Mayflower Tours just sent me just today. That's why it's so funny. Well, yesterday, you know, she sent me this thing and I'm like, oh, I'll talk about this tomorrow. But they're one of the tour operators that added on a bunch of tours in the US. So like they've added on, like, I don't know which ones were new versus which ones were there before, but I mean, they have Yellowstone, they have Alaska, they have the Grand Tetons, they have, oh, I don't know. I mean, I can go look it up, but I mean, there's just so many different places and they're doing tours. Are they inexpensive? Well, it depends, because I think most of them are all inclusive. They include like your travel there, and so it just depends on which ones are out there. But if you want to know more about them, give me a call and I'll give you the full details.
So what about cruises? I would think people are very anxious about cruising.
You can book them. You can book them for. So I'm scheduled to be on a cruise actually.
Really?
Yes. That was. It was a cruise that it was supposed to. So it's Virgin Cruises, which are brand new adult only cruises. I don't even think they've launched yet because they were launching right around this time, and we were scheduled to be on it. Me and another travel agent who actually, I was actually going with her. She was the one that had the arrangement to go. And we were supposed to go back in March, right after when I was in Daytona in March. I was down in Daytona in March for Bike Week. And we drove home from Daytona as this pandemic was hitting, which is why I said they were even then, like before everything got shut down, they were wiping everything down, like all that. So we were supposed to leave for that cruise the day after I got home from here. I was going to fly back down to Florida and get on that cruise. And of course it was canceled. And then it was rescheduled for, again, you know, for like 3 months later. And then of course that didn't work out. And now it's scheduled for December. So some cruises have started going in different areas, not necessarily around here, but in Europe, there's some cruises that have been, speaking of Europe, you know who opened up Croatia? If you want to travel to, you know, Europe, Croatia opened up. But I did hear also that there were. You want to look? We'll talk about it before you go. but it is open if you're interested. Anyway, the cruise lines, they have it the toughest. It's really hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard for them, you know, and I'm sure they're going to also have stringent. It's going to be the cleanest time to go on a cruise when it opens up, right? Because I mean, it's been insane. So, but you can book them now, and they have some really great specials. If you're a cruiser or if you're looking into, you know, getting into cruising, there are some great deals if you're booking now. And we're booking for 2022. I mean, you don't have to book for 2021 when we're still not sure what's going on. Maybe the end of 2021, but I would recommend you book on them for 2022 and you grab these deals because they're amazing. And then Mayflower Scenic is the river cruise for Mayflower, which is the one that just sent me the thing. That's why she's in my bed. Woman. So, but Scenic Cruises, the river cruises are amazing, and you can book them. They include everything. They include your air. They include your hotel. They include everything, and they're not a bad price point.
Have you seen any hotel incentives with certain hotel brands?
No, hotel incentive like for hotel chains.
Yeah, like, you know.
No, not really. Okay. I mean, it just depends on the.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, is there anything else that you want folks to know about traveling now? Any thoughts? Anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah. One is, if you're on the fence, I would just say, draw from the experience of, what's going on in your world. Like if you're going out here, then going out to a hotel or anywhere is probably okay. If you're okay with flying, it's a great time to go to like Mexico, Cancun, and get away, because you're gonna have, 60%, half capacity, great food and lots of fun. You got beach, so everything is running, and we know the places that are the best to go to. If you want to, give me a call. Like I said, I have agents that go that, I haven't personally gone yet, but there's a whole bunch of agents I have that are going, and we all get together and talk about which ones were clean and which ones were truly at the low capacity and which ones aren't paying attention. so I say go through a travel agent.
Yeah,
I really do. I say go through a travel agent, because at least you have some insight as to the destination you're going to. If you're comfortable traveling, you're comfortable traveling, talk to a travel agent, because at least then, like I said, we've got so many, all of us have each other, for where we're going. So I would do that. Yeah.
It's great. It's great to have a community of information like that, the average person going on, Expedia is not going to have, having that knowledge is so helpful.
Yeah. You don't know where you don't know where you get. Exactly.
Are you planning any travel coming up soon?
Well, I have that cruise planned in with my friend there in December. And we're probably, we're probably going to go again, US based. I haven't flown anywhere yet, and I probably won't.
Okay.
For not any other reason other than I haven't needed to. Summer's been here, so I just don't need to. And we're doing a lot with the motorcycles. So we're probably going to hit Savannah, Georgia, since I've never been there, believe it or not.
Nice.
We're going to hit Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston down there, and check that out. And I'm actually looking at that. Yeah, that's our
road trips. So you guys are more comfortable probably with road trips right now.
No, I don't mind flying. I would fly in a heartbeat, but I would. But I'm not a person that's going to sit with a mask on for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours.
I know.
And that's what stops me. So, and that's not a government mandate. The masks on the planes is not a government mandate. It's an airline mandate.
Right.
And I don't blame them. I think it's important to do it. And I'm really not willing to sit on the plane that long. I feel so sorry for all of the people who are working right now with the public and have to wear masks all day long. It's not easy, and I know it's not easy, and I see it on their faces. Like it's just so hard, and I feel terrible, and I'm so grateful that they do it. But I couldn't see myself doing it just yet. If I had to, I would, but I don't necessarily. There's nowhere I need to go right now to do that. So, like I said, not right now. And then I have other reasons why I can't travel right now anyway. So, yeah. So, family obligations, let's say.
Exactly.
So I have to wait a little bit.
Exactly.
But yeah,
so one last thought. I know that whenever I booked with you, you were always a big advocate for insurance. Did we talk about insurance? Like you always say, Michelle, you should get insurance. So is there anything changing with that we should know about?
No, just read your policy. Obviously you always want to have travel insurance. You just want to make sure now that what the policies read, because now that this has happened, they all have pandemic clauses anyway of some. So you got to read your policies, but I would never travel without travel insurance. So.
Yeah. Okay. Or book without travel insurance, even like booking, because stuff can happen between when you book and when you go.
Right. We had talked about the cancel for any reason, which is depends on where you're going and who you're with. Like I said, talk to me. I'll tell you where, what, how. Yeah.
And the best way that they can reach you, Susan, is we have it on the ticker, susanstravel.com.
You have the website there, my Facebook, Susan's
Awesome.
Travel, and email Susan@Susan'sTravel.com. Yeah, any of those, and of course the phone number's on the website. So I do a lot of Facebook, so I'm on Facebook a lot. So if anybody's looking for, if you do Facebook, that's good. Otherwise, Twitter, I'm in there too. Instagram, I'm on, but Facebook's the main one that I use.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom about traveling during the pandemic. I appreciate it.
Michelle. It's been great being here with you.
All right, my dear. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.